sense.
So walk me through what happens at a county transit planning meeting.
Um, well, this was their monthly board meeting of the local transit authority. So it's the board of commissioners, talking about all current topics, events going on, ranging from uh, uh, planning for new routes, HR issues, um, approval of contracts, so on.
That relates to one of the main questions that I wanted to talk about, which was whether, in your experience, transit is downstream of development or development is downstream of transit.
So Memphis Experience, I'd say we are at a point here locally where up until now, it has been transit is downstream of development. So an excellent case in point, about a year and a half ago, a new large employer was announced. It was a call center that would employ 700 people, which is, low skilled jobs that would appeal to many, residents who don't have a lot of education. So also typically people who would be very likely transit riders. But this employer, and it also received public incentives to come to Memphis, located in the extreme eastern section of the city that had no transit access. And so after the company agreed to come here, the city, then they said, oh, by the way, we'd also like you to pay for a new bus line to bring our employees to us. And that was really a wake-up call locally that we're doing things in reverse. That rather than just letting the employers decide where they want to go, or rather than allowing developers decide where they want to build the housing first, and then trying to figure out transportation issues after it.
On their terms.
Mistake. Right. So I would say we are now at the point that we're starting to flip that around. And there have been a couple good examples lately. One is about half a year ago, IKEA announced they are opening their first store in Tennessee, the first store in this region of the country, in Memphis.
Really?
Yes.
And sure, my mom will be there.
Yeah. It was a big event here. A lot of people were excited about it. People who had been driving to Atlanta, that the closest store was a 6-hour drive just to go to.
I sense a but coming in this explanation.
Oh well, no. So, so what happened differently, and they were going to employ about 300 employees, or they are going to employ about 300 employees. What happened differently is that on the front end, our transit authority and the city together reached out to IKEA and said, this is great that you're coming. We want you to be here, but we want to be sure that you have transit access. What can you do to help us create that access for you? Fortunately, IKEA is a company that's, obviously they're based in Europe, so they have some experience in transit, and they recognize the value of transit access.
Right.
So they were willing to help you share the cost of extending transit service. So that's just one example of how now we're trying to take more of a proactive approach to getting transit out before the development.
What do you think the experience would have been if you had contacted the call? I mean, how much of that is IKEA's European pedigree, and how much of it is, well, you caught us in the front end?
I think a lot of it is definitely the front end. I mean, yes, I think it's easy. Like I said, I think it's easier working with IKEA because it does have those European roots. But they're president of North American operations, U.S. operations is still American. It's American staff here, so there is still a little bit of a difference there in terms of their culture, what they're used to, and we have other examples locally where. I guess now we're trying to go out to the companies on the front end and say, we want to be sure you can have transit come to your location. What can you do to help? So a quick little footnote on that call center. They have since then, I think it was within the last few weeks, announced that they're closing. So they managed to get public incentives to come to Memphis. They managed to get the local government to pay for new transit routes to bring their employees out to them. And now they said they're closing after maybe 6 months of being in operations. So it just drives home the point further that transit can't become, a second, can't be an afterthought. It has to be right up there on the front end with the planning.
In the first episode of Skylines, this show, I talked to Norman Wright, who's a planner in Denver, and Adams County on the edge of Denver, and we talked about the tension, or not the tension, but the existence of the two different parties. There's the planning department on the one hand, then there's the council, which he helped me understand this is a much more grassroots, citizen-oriented body. And so he said, even if you have the good fortune to deal with the planning department, which is fairly forward-thinking and so on, a lot of your good ideas and hopes and dreams may go to seed when if a citizen, a ballot initiative says, no, we don't want this, we don't want another trolley stop here, or whatever. What's been your experience with that kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't know where to start. I guess, a lot of times you're trying to sell something to individuals who, it's bad enough that they, I don't want to say it's bad enough, but it's difficult enough that they don't have the same, I guess, level of knowledge, planning issues, as other planners or engineers, architects, so on. But then just to add to the difficulty is that they are politicians, and so they're going to try and grandstand or make an issue of something that doesn't really need to be an issue if they see it's going to help their image in front of their constituents. I don't know. I guess like this bike lane example that you're talking about, it's final. It was already not faring well, but the final nail in the coffin came when two city councilmen attended a public meeting. It was supposed to be the last public input meeting on this bike lane project before it went final, basically, before the city announced the final alignment of the route and so on. These two city councilmen attended, and they let the city staff, the city engineer, give the presentation, go through all the measures, and ask questions like he did plan to do with the public. Wait for all that. At the very end, these two councilmen spoke up and said, we've heard from people who are against this project. We know that not everybody likes it, so we're going to make this a council issue now, and we're going to put a stop to this. And just by publicly announcing that they were going to take up an issue with it and bring it in front of the whole city council, just killed the project.
Because no one wanted to be on the other side of the issue from them.
Right, and it's an election year. So on one hand, they wanted to appeal to the voters who were against the project, and they felt that, by looking as if they were against it, they'd give them a good image. And incidentally, one of these council members is on record about just a few months previous in a news report saying not in regards to this specific project, but in regards to bike lanes in general, that he was for them, and that people who are against them, this was his actual quote, people who are against them are afraid of change. And sometimes people just need to change. And a few months later, he came out as being apparently one of these people who was against the change. So